Hello, good evening. We just got back from Tucson, Arizona. Now we're back in California. We spent some time with friends there, and there was a little boy, Emery, and he kept on calling me for some reason. He kept on calling me Santa Claus. Can you imagine this? And I told him, you know what my students call me, Dr. Bear. And he starts laughing and he goes, "But you are not a bear." I was really hoping he would say, but doctors cannot become bear. Oh no, no, bears cannot become doctors. I even messed it up. Well, anyway, my name is Dr. Astar Bear. I'm a professor of economics and teacher of meditation. And each week I teach this class live stream so that you can learn the basics of heart rhythm meditation method, which comes out of Sufism in the lineage of Hazrat Inayat Khan. Um, Quite a mouthful in that whole introduction. Um, well, let's just start off. For those of you that are new, let's just start off with a kind of the basics, and we'll go through what makes this practice unique. Um, so, the first thing we want to pay attention to is our posture. So, you want to be sitting in a way that allows you to be upright and yet relaxed. So, that's important. I've got this kind of office chair. You kind of see it in the background. It's not great for meditation, but you can often work with seats like this to make them better. So I sit back in the seat. I've got a little cushion on my back that helps. My back is not touching the back of the chair. I've got my feet tucked under me in such a way that I feel stable, but I'm not going back. Right? So you want to try to keep all of your centers in line here. Keep your head over your spine, which is over your hips and so forth. So um, that's the first step, right? Just having that good energized posture. Um, so you can then close your eyes and tune into your breath. And we want to make the breath deep. So a lot of times what's happening is that we're breathing high up in the chest. This is called thoracic breathing. We want to shift that to diaphragmatic breathing, breathing down in the belly. So take your hand and just place it on your belly and just tune into that area as you breathe. You should feel your hand rising and falling with your breath. And if you're not feeling that, then just try to really relax. We often hold a lot of tension in the upper body, and this is both a trigger of stress and a result of stress, of course, right? Because, um, excuse me, my mouth's a little bit dry. Because um, we get stressed and then we tense up on our upper body, even if it's just like on a kind of, repeated but micro level, right? Those muscles get tense. And where there's tension, there's a blockage of your energy, right? So let yourself settle down, let yourself relax. Even as you keep your posture upright, this is one of the skills that you learn here is to relax into this upright posture. Now, we also, just to go with this process, we want to make the breath slower. All right. So, again, one of the signs of stress is breathing high in the chest and also breathing rapidly and arrhythmically. So, we want to make the breath, slow the breath down and make it more rhythmic. So, you just pay attention to your breath and just try to make it flow like a river every breath that you take. Feel that flow coming in and feel that flow coming out. And repeat, finding your own rhythm. So you can see that even just by changing our breath rhythm in what is a fairly trivial way, we only did a few things. By doing this, we allow ourselves to relax much more quickly than we would if we weren't doing this, if we weren't paying attention to it, right? This is the relaxation response. So remember, the keys are nice upright posture, make your breath deep, feel your belly rising and falling, make your breath slower, and try to feel it flowing. No pauses or interruptions. One breath blending seamlessly into the next. All right. So I think that's a good place to just break for now. We're going to do more meditation, but I just want to talk for a little bit um, about energy. Um, so one of the things, I just mentioned it in our meditation, of course, right? Like about your energy being up here, you're feeling tense in your upper body, you're feeling stressed, you're having a lot of anxiety, or your energy is up here, right? So I just want to talk about what do we mean by energy and how do we work with energy? Like meditation, one of the points of it, of course, is to feel energy, right? To become sensitive to that. Where is your energy within you at this moment? Uh, what about the energy around you? What is that like, right? So, we by closing our eyes and not moving around, right, not interacting with the outer world, we become more attuned to our inner world, right? And that's good, right? We want that. Um, so, but there's something more to that, right? It's not often not enough to just know that there's energy, right? Um, we might also want to change that energy, right? Especially our own, right? I mean, that's really the fundamental lever that we have. If we have any leverage at all, right, in the world, it's over ourselves. Um, so, okay, we perceive our own energy, right? You say, all right, well, my energy is all up here, right? Um, and I'm tense and whatever, right? What do I do? Oh, I can do this breathing. I can sit in this way, right? I can relax and allow that with my breath, right? I can allow that to sink down. So I don't know if my narrative has made sense to you. I feel like I'm saying stuff that lots of people say in lots of different settings. I hope it's not just like woo 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 weird meditation stuff, right? um, or maybe it's not so weird anymore. I don't know. I've been weird for so long, it's hard for when the culture catches up and then it's normal. I don't know exactly what is normal. Huh. Um, so the point is, right? Meditation, the spiritual side of it, right? The teachings that go along with it also give us a whole vocabulary to help us with energy, right? Um, and to help us categorize it, think about it. Um, and there's techniques which help us to move that energy, transform that energy, have it become something else, right? Um, Maybe it's not right for what we're doing right now. Maybe it's not right for our development. Or maybe it's not right for others at this moment. Um, so we don't want to just know what our energy is, right? We also want to change it. Um, and the breath can be a real powerful tool here, right? Um, my, one way that it can be helpful, one way that it can be helpful is this part that I mentioned, just relaxing the tension and sinking down into your belly, making your breath deep and rhythmic, right? Um, so this is already changing things, right? I mean, by the very thing that helps you tune into it, also already is making it, less tense, less anxious, less thinking, and more being in your center, right? Um, so that's a good start, right? What if we really needed to get hyped up and anxious and whatever, right? Because there are times when that's appropriate, right? What do we do? Well, it might be time for a more rapid breath, right? Um, even an arrhythmic breath, to be honest, right? That does put you into a state of physiological arousal. And okay, if you know that you can do that, okay, you start breathing that way, right? Um, so it's there's times for it's maybe less than we might get naturally, all right? Uh, I think a lot of our problem in modern life is that our stress triggers just kind of are on too much, right? Um, and it's like an alarm that's on all the time. That gets to be pretty annoying. uh, so the ways that I want to talk about energy are also techniques, right? Because we don't just want to understand and categorize energy, right? The only point of doing that is if we have certain ways that we know we can work with it, transform it, that correspond to those terms, right? Otherwise, life's short, right? Why introduce a bunch of new terminology uh, because somebody thinks it's a good idea, right? You should know why, right? Um, Now, luckily, what the energetic system I'm going to talk about doesn't is pretty intuitive, right? So this is been around for a long time. Okay, it's the four element theory, or four elements energetic system, uh, and each of these elements. So it's air, fire, water, and earth, and each one of these corresponds to a whole set of qualities, right? It's the characteristics of that kind of energy, right? So air is like that big picture, that kind of visionary, right? That kind of it's a energy good for intellect, right? Good for clarity, but also good for that kind of just broad, big picture that's very intuitive, right? So, and what are all of the energies that are associated with this? Like I mentioned some qualities, but what about this, right? Vastness, the energy that spreads out, right? Um, that is what we're talking about when we're talking about this air element, okay? Now, and sometimes we want to bring this out, or we want to work with the energy to transform it within ourselves, right? So we have a breath that goes along with this, and that is in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Okay, so the element breaths bring in different patterns of breathing through the nose and mouth. Okay, so the air is on one side, very diffuse, right? The all that surrounds everything, right? That is more subtle, right? You can't see air, you feel the effect of it, right? So, if you want to depict the air element or something, draw a picture of it, that's hard to do, right? Because it doesn't have like this form that you have to show a cloud or something, right? Which isn't really the air itself, it's the effect of wind, right? Traveling through the air. So, right, that quality of subtlety, all right? So just try this out with me right now, right now. We'll do a little brief exercise working with the air breath. Okay, so this is in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Okay, so take your good upright posture again, and we want that same quality in the breath. Okay, we want it to be deep, we want it to be slow, we want it to be smooth, flowing. Okay, but this time just gently take gently open your mouth a little bit and take the air in through your mouth and also out through your mouth. All right. So, one of the first things you might notice here is the way that the air feels differently when it's going through your mouth. You feel it cooling some part of your lips or tongue, right? It causes a very different mix of sensations in the breathing mechanism, right? Also, the the space that it travels through is much more variable, right? You can leave your mouth only a little tiny bit open, and you'll feel more of that sensation that I mentioned. Or you can have it more open, and you might feel less of that, or you'll feel it in a different way, right? Because the mouth is, of course, much more variable size orifice than the nostrils are, right? So how open you have your mouth is one of these variables, right? Now we're also interested in cultivating that quality, that set of qualities that I talked about before as being associated with the air element. That subtlety, that mystery, that diffuseness, that spreading out energy, that which can see things from all sides because it surrounds all things. And as you really concentrate on this air element, you concentrate on these qualities so much that you really begin to feel in yourself and in your own body that vastness, that spreading out, that sense that your body just goes on and on and on, and that other objects and other beings and are drawn into your field. That air is all you. That sensation may deepen so much that you begin to lose track of where you begin and the great space ends. And we would like to keep a center in all this vastness. So place your hand on your heart and focus all of this energy, right? No matter how vast you are, feel that you have a center to it. That center is your heart. And if you can feel your heart beating in this posture, then bring your breath in line with the beats of your heart so that you breathe in the same number of beats as you breathe out. So you might try 8 beats in and 8 beats out, for example. All right, so we'll end our little meditation there. Um, so the air breath is very useful when you feel limited, when you feel small, when you feel like you're, just in your own little bounded area, right? It gives you a sense of space internally, right? Um, and that's very important. Um, so, something to just keep in mind, right? I'm going to have more to say about this once we kind of go through all these. So the next element is the fire element, right? Um, and what are we thinking of here? Well, it's a lot like a physical fire, right? That's what we're thinking of. This kind of energy, which is very bright, which dances, right? Which has a rising quality to it, right? Um, which produces in us some kind of heat, right? Um, and now we're trying to make this a metaphor that applies to human beings, right? So we look for all of the things that we could consider a fire in ourselves, right? What qualities do we think of that goes along with that? or in others, right? So, things. So, but we often refer to this kind of language when we're talking about others, right? Say, that person's got a spark in them, right? Well, what is it that about them that makes them feel that spark, or what is that quality of spark, right? That's what we mean when we say fire, right? This kind of energy. Um, it has a particular kind of quality, right? It even has a particular kind of directionality to it, right? Fire rises or goes forward, right? That's the kind of energy. Uh, so that fire brings. Um, so this is a useful set of qualities to have. Is different qualities, right? Different kind of energy than what we were talking about before with the air element, right? Um, so we have a different kind of breath with this one, right? To help us get into that quality, right? We're going to use the breathing technique along with our mental visualization and focusing the mind and so on, right? So the breathing technique is you breathe in through your mouth and then out through your nose. All right. So try that out with me again. All right. And when you're breathing in, you want to focus on your solar plexus. All right. So your solar plexus is right at the base of your rib cage. Okay. That's the center. So it feels like it's on your belly, but kind of high, right? Um, not or middle. I don't know, high to middle, where your ribs end. That's it, right? So feel that you're taking the breath in through your solar plexus and then breathing out right through the center of your heart. All right. So again, tune in to your center, your posture, right, upright yet relaxed. And breathe in through the mouth and out through the nose. The fire breath to bring up the fire element. Now you might feel that this is different, right? Just the breath of it is different. The sensations that you notice are very different, right? But there's some similarities too, right? That inhalation through the mouth, that part's the same, but then it feels different to close your mouth and redirect that energy now through the nose, right? So that's something to tune into. That's something to pay attention to as you practice this. Now, also tune into the energetic qualities of fire, right? The passion, the courage, the spark, the inspiration, that which lifts you up, that which excites you, that which makes you angry, outraged. All these things are fire. Now, fire is one that we have a sense of that we should be cautious with. There's a tendency to be afraid. Like this is the element that could really get out of control, right? So notice that too. If that comes up for you, that's part of the experience, right? All things that happen in meditation are part of the experience. All right. So we'll end our little practice of the fire breath there. Um, Now, again, we want to tune into your heart as the center of your breath here. Okay, so breathing in through your solar plexus, we consider that to be like the depth of the heart. Okay, and breathing out through the center of the chest. Okay, the heart chakra. So this has a lifting effect on you, right? Um, and you might even feel it as heat in your body. Um, so it has some very beneficial properties to it. It's a tool that we can use, right? When we want to shift our energy more towards that bundle of qualities. All right. Now, of course, we can tune it even further using meditation, right? The fire, that's very general, right? We could tune that energy much more precisely still, right? But this is just a kind of beginning of how we might use this um, for you know, to affect ourselves right now in the moment, right? There are plenty of times where we need more fire, right? Oh, I feel worn out, but I have this challenge. Fire time, right? It, the, the fire likes a challenge, right? Fire rise to a challenge, right? You have some opposition, boom, right? Pow, power through it, right? Um, so there's times when it's very, very appropriate, right? Where you need that kind of energy, take the fire breath, use the fire breath, right? Um, that is a tool that you have. Now, is that tool going to be more powerful the more time you spend cultivating it and learning how to really use it? You tell me, right? If it's not, you'll get your money back. I guarantee it, right? Like anything, right? The more you cultivate it, the better you're going to be at it, right? So, we practice these meditations every day, right? So, and we go through each one of these elements as a way of purifying, as a way of developing ourselves. Um, right? This is all part of it. So, but I hope you're getting a sense, right? We're doing short meditations, and we're talking about it, right? You could work with this, right? We could build much longer meditations depending on where you're at, right? Um, if that was what you're into, right? Um, and and if you want to see an example of this, you can check out my Patreon page. I give access to this introductory meditation course that goes through everything step by step, so you can kind of get a sense of, like, when I say we have exercises for this, exercises for that other thing, right? That gives you kind of an example of what I'm talking about, and of how we would progress through all the skills of meditation, right? Because there's different skills to be mastered here. Um, excuse me. So the next element that we want to get into um, is the water element. Okay, so water element, very, very important, and you can see just by invoking that, right? Water, um, pretty common experience if you live on Earth, right? To experience some water in your life, right? And what does that do, right? Well, water flows, right? Water, joins together. Okay, so that's the kind of energy that we're talking about: flowing, joining together, right? Adaptive, flexible, right? Connecting, that kind of energy. Okay, water gets you wet, right? What is it doing, right? It's connecting with you, right? That's water. Touches everything, but it's in a different fashion than the air, right? It's a different kind of connection that you get from water, right? Because water, you can see water, right? You can it's see how we're going from a more subtle kind of energy, air, to a much more manifest kind of energy, right? A much more tangible, when you're feeling water and when you're not, right? Kind of energy. All right. So that's part of this movement that we're talking about, right? A movement from more refined, more subtle, to less so, right? To more tangible. All right. So the water breath is the opposite of the fire breath because, fire and water are opposite types of energy as well, right? So that is, we are breathing now in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay. And the direction that the water goes in is it comes down, right? Down and also forward. All right. So a very good visualization, right? So you have a visualization for the fire breath. You feel a fire or a hot coal in your solar plexus. Breathe in through that, right? With a water breath, we have the sense the water is falling down on us, collecting in this big bowl in our chest, our hearts, right? And just pouring forth. Okay. So let's try that out. So get your posture together again. Nice upright posture. And begin to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just feel the qualities that you associate with the water element. Just really feel these qualities in your heart. Take one hand or both hands and place them on your chest. Help you tune into your breath, tune into the rhythm of your heart. Remember to place the rhythm of your heartbeat in a rhythm with your breathing so that you breathe in the same number of beats as you breathe out. And making the breath very smooth, very deep, very slow, very rhythmic. And we also want to make the breath full. So squeeze your abdominal muscles as you breathe all the way out. And then breathe all the way in. And when you really make your breath full, then you extend your breath all the way up to your chest, breathing in as much as you can while keeping it in control, keeping the breathing smooth. And then as you breathe out, same thing, right? Control the breath. Use your abdominal and your intercostal muscles, all of the muscles that regulate the breathing. We want to develop those. We want to activate those. We want those to be controlling the breath. Usually, when you take a big breath, that breath is not going to be very smooth. So, we want to retrain ourselves. Big, smooth, even, slow breath. And you might notice that that breath has a lot of power to it. It's even more true the better you get at it. Feel that energy in your heart that goes along with the water, the connection, the depth, the adaptability, that quality of giving life. Where there's water, there's life. That connection, that merging, that sense of flow, that heavy kind of energy that flows downwards and rolls forwards. All right, let's end our session there. So I hope you got a sense of that water element. We can work with it in other ways as well. We have sound practices, for example, mantras and so on. Um, and these are all designed to do the same thing, right? To work with the energy in a particular way, right? So there's certain sounds, right? Certain vibrations that cause that sensation in a certain part of the body or the whole body, right? Um, and that's another way we can work with energy, right? Um, because again, we want to do two things here, right? We want to perceive the energy, and then we might want to change it as well, right? Um, we might want to transform it. What is the best way of doing that, right? So these elements provide us with a kind of a clue, right? Because we have they're in a kind of a certain order, right? We had the air, the fire, the water, and the next one that we'll do is the earth, right? The earth being the most tangible, right? The most boundaried, right? So water merges with everything, connects with everything, right? Do rocks do that, right? Not really, right? They're pretty much pretty clear on like where they begin and where they end, right? So uh, maybe you need help with boundaries. Well, this is a good element for boundaries, right? Do not cross this line. Where is it, right? It's here in the earth, right? Do not cross this line. That's right. That works better with earth than it does with any other element, you know. So that kind of energy which is strong, right, which can support, right, which can be depended upon the ground underneath your feet, right, like that. That strength, stability, right, that long lasting quality. Now, see how different this is from air, right? Air is in a lot of ways the opposite end, right? It's the opposite end of the spectrum from the earth, right? The air has no boundaries, right? It's all affecting each other everywhere, right? Um, so very different quality, right? That vastness and spreading out. Well, earth doesn't do that, right? The rock stays a rock, right? So that's but there's a certain comfort in that, right? Um, the wind blows where it will. You can't rely that it's going to keep on blowing, right? But the rock is just a rock, That's so. Right? You get what I'm smell what I'm cooking with this one, right? We're talking about that kind of energy. Okay, is that energy right for every situation? No, 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 no. Of course not, right? Um, is a note right for every part of the symphony? Maybe not, right? You'll play different notes at different times if you want music, and the same with life, right? Life is a dance. Life is music. We need to move our steps accordingly to that, right? Follow the rhythms that are around us. If we ignore them, that's at our peril. Um, because things change in a particular way, right? So we want to be aware of what those rhythms are, what those energies are, uh, to adapt ourselves to it. And also, well, we do have some influence, right? There are things that we can do, right? We have control over our own energies, right? After all, um, but that's a data point in there, right? That's where we're part of this dance. We're part of this mix. So, what note we play in ourselves, um, because it changes ourselves, right? It has a wider influence. So, because we're all connected ultimately, right? All energy is connected to all other energy. So, um, all right. Well, let's work with this last one. Do a little practice on the earth breath, and this one is the one that we're most familiar with and most comfortable to us. Okay. So we'll also be working on our basics of heart rhythm meditation. That is nice upright posture, really paying attention to the breath, trying to perfect the breath, making it deep, smooth, slow, rhythmic, heart centered, and full on different aspects of the breath that we're working on. And this time, just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, just like we normally do. So, The earth breath is kind of our default breath for many of us, most of the time. There are some that breathe through their mouth habitually, or perhaps when they sleep. There's all different ways of breathing. It's so wonderful that we have these redundant systems, right? We have both the nostrils and we have the mouth. Thank goodness, right? Because breathing is so important. And so, because we have that flexibility, right, we're working with that in different patterns to do the different element breaths. Now, make sure you're breathing with the same number of beats on the inhalation as on the exhalation, right? This is one of the key qualities of heart rhythm meditation, feeling the heartbeat, harmonizing with the heartbeat, using that as your fundamental rhythm. So if you're having trouble feeling that beat, you might try just putting your hand on your chest or even just your fingertips and lightly pressing on your breastbone until you get that sensation of the pulse in your fingertips. If you're not feeling your heartbeat at all, don't let that worry you. You'll feel it eventually. You just pretend, think about what you think it might be, and just count to yourself in that rhythm. If you're off, it's okay. I give you permission. If you can feel your heartbeat, then you use that to keep your time, to make your breath heart centered, to feel that your breath is nourishing your heart, the center of your being, what you believe in, what you stand for, your foundational principles. And you see how all of these things I mention are very earth qualities, right? Like having a list of principles somewhere, right? That is that quality of orderliness, boundedness, strength, stability, everything in its place. Right? That's how the earth works, right? There's everything in its place. That's that kind of energy. You might say, well, this kind of energy is very boring. Maybe it's not the kind of, maybe it's not the most exciting. It's not fire after all, right? But boring things are dependable. Boring things, they don't have the excitement of not knowing if it's going to be there or not, right? Uh, you know, like, hey, let's go down and see that there's a so and so's barn is on fire. Let's go see it. Maybe it'll be out by the time you get there, right? But if you say you're going to go and see, I don't know what, like Mount Denali, then you're gonna, that's the highest peak in North America. That's gonna be there, right? Um, that kind of energy has a real time and place, right? We don't want everything to be exciting. We want some things to just be there, right? To be able to rely upon, to be our base, to be our foundation. All right. Well, let's end our meditation there. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I've got all these squawking birds outside. They're setting a certain vibe for me. um, well, I hope you guys could feel the different kinds of energy there with these different element breaths. Now, of course, we've also had a progression, right? We've also, by doing 5 different meditations, there's a progression of the energy that goes on, right? That's not there. The quality of the energy is not the same now as it was at the beginning. Um, and so that's good, right? I mean, there's no pure test of anything, because you never come in with nothing. You always come in with a certain vibe, a certain energy. Um, and then you go through it, and two things happen, right? You transform the energy, so you might go from one kind of energy to another, right? you know you might come in real spacey and real airy, right? And get real focused, right? Go to from air to fire, right? Focus like that. you know you're like, see how it's a different energy, right? From if I do this versus I do this, right? You it's a that's all I can say, right? Different kind of energy. So that can happen, right? Or you could stay within the kind of energy that you're in, right? The kind of element that you're in, but you can refine it, right? So spacey can get refined to like just having like being like a kind of vast visionary space, right? That's a different kind of vibe than being spaced out, but it's the same kind of energy. I hope that makes sense. I mean, like English isn't the best for all this, right? We talk about energy in a particular way, right? We have certain terms for it. So Sufism has its own terminology for all this stuff. Um, a lot of it is in Arabic, or another Eastern language, Eastern and Middle Eastern language. Um, so, I'm trying not to introduce that kind of terminology, like unless we needed to. So we have four elements in English. So that's a good thing to use, right? We already, we already, if you're listening to me, you probably already speak English, right? Um, so, right, you work with these concepts over time, and you learn more about both of these things that I'm talking about, right? So one is just, can we get that kind of energy moving, right? Can we get into an air state, right? A fire state, a water state, an earth state, right? That's something to practice. Um, and then, well, can we take that and refine it within that, right? So becoming more adept at working with energy, right? To make it more refined or less refined. Perhaps you need to be less refined, right? Um, a lot of times, I have to say, we don't work for less refined necessarily in meditation. I mean, there's times for it, right? There's time for it. But because meditation is generally like this quiet reflective time, right? um, could we, what does it mean to make the energy more subtle or more refined versus less refined? What does less refined mean, right? Well, it means more concrete, more material, more like that, right? um, so we could think of each element in terms of that framework, right? So let's um let's work with this one more time. Just reflect back a little bit on which of these elements you had a powerful experience with. What caught your attention? That's what we want, right? We don't want to rank it like good or bad, right? We want to rank it like memorable versus non-memorable, right? And where's the intensity occurring? Okay. When I was first working with the water breath myself, I often felt a lot of fear. I never felt that fear with the fire breath. It felt really comfortable to me. Right? I have a lot of that fire element within me. With the water element, I felt afraid. I felt like I was going down into mysterious depths that I did not understand. Right? So that's interesting, right? That told me something. That told me this is something I want to work with. I don't want to fear this, right? We don't want to fear any tool. These are tools to work with energy. We want to respect it, yeah, right? But not fear it. We respect what it can do, but we're not afraid to use it, right? So when I felt this way, I said, what is this? What can I learn from this? What can I let me go into this and just see, because there's obviously something for me here, right? Not everything that we need to work on is going to be attractive to us. Some of it is going to be repulsive to us. Some of it is going to we're going to be afraid of. We can't be led around by that, right? Because meditation is not about feeling good. It's about the truth. And the truth sometimes hurts. So as you reflect on the experience, right, just think about that. It's a good idea to do several of these element breaths each day, right? So I have for many years followed this habit, do 5 breaths of each element. And I go through them either from the air to the fire to the water to the earth, or in the opposite order, sometimes from the earth to the water to the fire to the air. So I recommend doing that. That's a good practice to get you more familiar with this, because a lot of times you don't necessarily know uh, during the moment, right? Like I said, oh, well, maybe you have a reaction to one of these elements that tells you something important, gives you something, that would be good to work on. Sometimes that won't all happen at the same time, right? uh, Maybe not much happens when you first try it. Okay, right? Well, try it again, right? You keep working with it. If you want to, right? If I've convinced you that it could be a valuable tool, right? Please don't feel obligated to do any of the exercises I give you. I'm just thinking of your own good. That's all. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Um, always enjoy meditating with you all, and I'll hope to see you all next week. Take care.